And we are back. I bet you all were expecting Kenny to do the intro. Nope, it is I, Colin. Hope everybody's excited for today's episode. We are doing a mid-series finale of the Ahsoka series, Star Wars. I am in love with it. What about you all?
So many questions.
I have a good handful of answers, but I'm loving it so far. But first off, we have gone past the sun at least once. We're officially 1 year old.
Yes, we are celebrating a 1 year anniversary. Super excited.
Yeah, which bourbon you drinking, Kenny?
So I managed to pull out the Copper and King Cave Hill.
Nice. There you go.
Wow.
Very nice.
Cheers.
Well, cheers everybody.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, super excited. Super excited for this episode particularly. Let's jump right into it. So, your all's thoughts on this series, mid-series review so far?
I'm loving it. Lots of lightsabers.
Do you hear the lightsabers, Kenny?
I do. Now, that being said, lots of fun fights, lots of fun duels. People get bodied.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Everything goes about as well as you expect for an episode called The Fallen Jedi.
It was pretty entertaining. Several episodes since our last review of the first one. So we're episode 5 came out last week, and right now we have a a scoring on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. If y'all are interested in knowing what those are right now since the last time we did it.
Sure thing. I definitely don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I'm not going to guess.
Well, luckily for you, I have it right here in front of me. So, Rotten Tomatoes, we are at a whopping 88%.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And IMDb is an 8 out of 10.
Yes.
Would you all agree with the scores thus far for the series?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely improved since that first episode. We get a little bit more intrigue. We see Snips being more snippy.
Yeah, I definitely think that this series so far, every episode I feel like has been a stepping stone. Which
yes.
with each episode, it feeds off the previous one. It just gets better and better and more character development, more plot that we're starting to understand. And basically, nobody in the audience or viewers, if you will, can get really confused about it. Whereas opposed to like other Star Wars series, people are like, okay, what the hell is the plot line? Like Mandalorian or Boba Fett, like people are kind of confused about what the plot line and where this is going. Whereas this show, I think it's pretty straightforward. Would you all agree?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I think it still plays off of the Rebels nostalgia. That's unavoidable. But
this is season 5 of Star Wars Rebels.
It might as well be.
Live action. No, it is. That's what Dave Filoni has said. It's official. This is a live action season 5 of the Rebels.
I believe in part 5, Hera even says, "Once a rebel, always a rebel."
Yep.
So, I can't really blame him there. I think they did a great job with the writing in these past 2 episodes, 4 and 5.
Yeah, the writing is definitely improved since the very beginning. And just the overall interaction with characters. I'm starting to actually like characters more. Ahsoka, I think in the first episode, I was just like, Ahsoka's okay. Sabine's being a little bitch. She's gotten better. Hera, I think she's starting to pull her own weight now. So, yeah.
Yeah, pull her own weight. I absolutely love Balin.
Yeah.
Like, what is there not to love about Balin?
I mean, Balin and Shin. Actually, this is totally just a sidebar kind of thing, but I saw to replace Ray, what's the actor's name? Ray, I forget what his last name is.
Ray Stevenson?
Yeah. So they were talking about it. I don't think this is going to be official or anything. This is just hearsay. They were talking about making Liev Schreiber.
Sure. I'm bad with names, so you got a better chance.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of movies, but if you don't know who he is, definitely look him up. He's in the movie Sum of All Fears with Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman and just a couple other ones. But they make like a side-by-side comparison. They're about the same age, same height. They kind of look similar. I think he would do a really good job. Personally, I kind of actually liked that idea, like of throwing him out there. And, he's a good actor overall.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but since we're talking about the actors, I like young Ahsoka, surprisingly enough. I thought the actress did a good job.
You know who that is?
Yes, that is... Oh, now I'm forgetting her name from Guardians of the Galaxy, but the young green chick.
Yes. She is a younger version of that, and she was also in... She's in something else. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, yeah. So she's in all the universes with Marvel, Star Wars, and a bunch of other shit. So she's pulling her weight too.
Yeah. I am blanking on her name. 1 second.
It's all good.
Ariana Greenblatt. There we go.
There you go. But overall, what I think is of the series so far, it's visually stunning. Great CGI, great directing. The fight sequences are freaking awesome. They're so freaking cool. They even, like, when they introduce Anakin in this 5th episode.
Spoilers.
If you haven't watched it, then stop listening now. But,
yes. Yes, Jake's here too. Hi, Jake.
Hello.
The fight sequences are cool. He kind of does some of the cool... choreography with the lightsaber that he does and like Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He does that as well as in this episode. And you could tell Dave Filoni put
more emphasis on the fighting styles, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's definitely more effort into the choreography and making that more visually stunning as well. But what I was going to say is you can tell Dave Filoni put a lot of care and effort into the show. I think with this series, besides the animated series, Dave Filoni with this live action definitely, I feel like, has stepped up his game. In each episode, like I said, being a stepping stone, and you can tell exactly where the plot is going.
yeah. Can we just point out that Hayden Christensen, just coming back, reprising his role for Anakin, after basically the internet tore him apart for years.
They did. The internet tore him apart for years. Everybody was
I don't
like,
think it was just what he deserved, but it was just like what happens when you ruin somebody's favorite thing, you're going to lash out.
Yeah. Everybody thought he was a little bitch. When Attack of the Clones came out and Revenge of the Sith, they made him look like a little bitch, and everybody freaking hated him. But then, one like little clip or reel that I see on YouTube a lot is when he's at like a convention or something, and as soon as he's like introduced and brought onto stage, all the fans just freaking like blow up and are like, "Woo, he's freaking here!"
And he gets
like,
super emotional.
He gets super emotional. Exactly. He starts to tear up, and I'm just like, I don't understand. Like,
I didn't realize he was that hated.
No, people did not.
People really did not like that prequel trilogy when it first came out.
I mean, I know people didn't like the prequel trilogy. I didn't realize it was directly toward Hayden Christensen.
Well, because he was the one that ruined Darth Vader, air quotes.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't really have a lot of nice things to say, but
I disagree with those people. I liked Hayden Christensen.
Well, I liked it in the very beginning, and maybe those people have changed their opinion now years later since those movies have come out. So it's just like, okay, what changed? What opinion did you have in the beginning that now changed?
Yeah.
And I've read some stuff about it, like I get it, but at the same time, y'all suck.
You guys have hit a couple good points. I'm really liking this show, and the initial question was like, would we rank this at high 80s for a TV series? And I was like, hell yeah, we would. I definitely would.
Yeah.
And there's two reasons that you guys kind of mentioned. Colin, you mentioned that visually it's beautiful, and it is. You can tell that, lack of a better word, Disney spent some money and took the time to kind of make this look freaking good compared to
just some. I part of me wants to look up what the actual budget is.
But like comparing this to She-Hulk or Secret Invasion, it's like, man, this is 10 times better. This is, to me, Andor level, and I love it. And I wish every series would take a page out of this book. And they just need to be a little more patient, and they need to be willing to put some money into it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're not making a fortune off this. So like, I don't know why they wouldn't. And I'm glad that hopefully this is a new page in the chapter for them to kind of wake up and be like, let's take our time with this shit.
Mm-hmm. Part of that, I feel like, is that Disney recognizes that Star Wars, just as a whole, regardless of the quality of what they release, will always make its money back.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep people coming back and get new fans to earn even more money, then you need to do well.
Yeah. It's just beautiful it's beautiful to look at, and not all of them are created equal, right? So
no.
I would put this up there with Rogue One and Andor. It's a fun series. I think it's up there kind of with Mandalorian as well. I love it. And Colin, you mentioned something else. I think they did a really phenomenal job on the casting. Like, there's a couple characters I don't care for, Sabine, but for the most part, I think they casted it really well, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So I guess to get back to the plot here, I like that Ahsoka now is taking more of the center role in the episode.
Yeah, I was initially scared the first few episodes because I went into this series thinking it's going to be kind of like Ahsoka's adventures. And I think I remember saying that in a previous episode of like, I was excited to be more of a Han Solo story or Indiana Jones kind of style. And I think they're slowly getting to that, like where you get to see her character development and arc. Because I was a little nervous it was going to be like, oh god, this is going to be the
worried that
drama show.
Yeah, worried that the show titled Ahsoka was actually going to be more Sabine based than anything. But just in episode 4, we see a lot of fun interactions just between her and Balin. Yeah. And I guess just Balin's like build up to the fight and everything that he says. Balin's he is entirely correct in everything he said.
Everything he said was correct.
Here's a question for y'all. I can't figure out if he's evil or not. I don't know. Like sometimes I think it's like, okay, he's trying to save General Thrawn, but like, is his intentions good? Like, is he truly trying? Like, is he just pissed off at the Jedi because of whatever reason?
It depends on how you value the greater good.
Yeah, because
right?
they kind of wrote his lines are kind of written in a very ambiguous way, I think.
Yeah, which I think is what makes him a fun character because, yeah, he's effectively a mercenary. Yeah. He's not really on the dark side, but he's definitely doing dark side things.
Yeah, exactly. So he's definitely
he's getting paid for it. I mean, you wouldn't get paid for it being on the Jedi side. You're just doing it because it's the right thing to do, but he's actually legit getting paid because basically he's a mercenary, right?
Yeah.
And I could be completely wrong. I just think there's a part of my gut that just tells me that he's doing this for the right. I mean, he's doing it for money, but there's also kind of like, it's money, but it's aligned toward the right reasons. He's trying to bring some type of stability to the universe, but I mean, I'm sure it's going to blow up in his face. But
yeah. Well, it's just like the galaxy needs some form of government, and he has no faith in the New Republic because I'm going to call it the Old Republic, but I mean like the post-separatist Republic, like pre-Empire Republic, did not last very long.
No, it did not.
Nope.
So I think he's trying to find a more lasting answer, but I guess we'll see. We haven't actually had him describe what his greater good is. It's just
that's
that
true.
somehow Thrawn is going to bring it back
Yeah.
or
that's
bring
true.
about the greater good.
Well, all right. So let's kind of jump into. I want to jump into episode 5 since there's so much to talk about with that episode alone.
Yes.
So the Inquisitor. Let's start with that. We had some theories in the last episode about who the Inquisitor may be. Well, it turns out nobody was right.
Nobody was right. I think he might have just been a product of the witchcraft. Because he just kind of explodes into a puff of smoke.
That's how I took it. I took it was just some zombie witchcraft.
Everybody
thing.
had their theories. Oh, it could be this, could be that. No, he was just
He was just
nobody
voiced by
that
the guy.
was. Witchcraft came about. Night Sisters took care of him. I guess Morgan did that and made him an Inquisitor and a badass one
Yeah.
for the most part until Ahsoka
Beats him in the duel.
beats
But
him in the duel.
He does stand a chance for a while. You get to see some fun, I guess, physics-based fighting. Because when you have anything that spins like that, because he has his fun dual saber on like the weird wheel thing, and that spins super fast. There is some weird like physics when you try to wobble that thing around. So just to be able to do that and have it actually be like somewhat realistic in that regard is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, that has to be like hard to do like CGI wise. Like it's easy to do like in an animated series when you have that type of lightsaber. Like
Sure.
that's probably easy
In
to
2
do.
dimensions, it's easy.
Right.
In 3 dimensions, it's hard.
Exactly. And so that's why I feel like that only proves my point that more care, more effort was put into this series.
Yeah. You also just see like battle damage. Like they're just like slicing through the trees.
Yeah, that actually kind of reminded me of the Rise of Skywalker or whichever the fuck it is. It's that first one with like Rey and everybody, and Kylo Ren is like cutting down trees with his lightsaber and whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah.
It brought me back to that because it was basically the same scene. They're in a forested area and they're having their little duels or whatever, and they're cutting down trees. It's just like, what'd those trees do? Are they gonna plant new trees?
Wrong place, wrong
No,
time.
deforestation.
Basically.
Yes. We do not condone deforestation here at Derby City Fandom.
Hey, I love trees.
All right, so
Anyways.
let's move on. So that scene was pretty cool, and then we get to
I guess Shin and Sabine's fight is going on at the same time.
that was an interesting kind of duel, if you will. Somebody with a laser gun and somebody has a lightsaber.
Dual pistol versus...
But then Sabine ends up bringing out her lightsaber, which is fine.
Yeah.
But Shin
loses,
Shin
but
Shin should have kicked her ass. Honestly,
I mean,
like,
she kind of did. It's just
she
that
did, but
Sabine has more tricks with, rocket launcher gauntlet.
yeah.
So that's always fun.
Yeah, she pretends like she's using the Force, but then lowers her wrist down, and a freaking little rocket comes out and like gets the lightsaber knocked out of her hand, which was pretty cool.
I think that was a good moment because Shin doesn't know if she has powers or not. Like, they've been training Sabine a little bit. So who knows? Maybe she unlocked something. She doesn't know. So she reacts appropriately.
It would have been kind of cool though if she ended up using the Force in that particular scene, because then it would have, I don't know, like her focus would have been more into the whole Jedi way and
Sure.
that whole thing. And so like in this concentration, she would have been able to use the Force. But at the same time, I'm glad that didn't happen, because I feel like that would have been a pussy way out.
I interpreted that scene as letting the audience know she's not a Jedi. She's Mandalorian.
Not yet.
No, she's definitely Mandalorian 100%.
So that's how I interpreted it.
I am probably thinking too far ahead, but I think just the storytelling of the scene is that they're building up all of this, like, oh, she can't use the Force, like she has no powers, yada, yada, yada. In a later episode, probably like the last one, you're going to see her actually be able to use it, and it's going to be like a big, like, payout
Yeah, you never know. I think I'm taking the opposite bet. I think everyone's building up that she's a Jedi, but I think she's gonna be like,
you're double downing on she's not.
Yeah, I'm double down that she's not, and she's gonna be this like badass, maybe even nefarious, evil Mandalorian.
I think
she's gonna end up being Mandalorian. I don't think she's gonna be a Jedi.
Fair enough.
Known to be wrong though, so do not put money on my.
After that, we obviously get to the scene where Balin and Ahsoka kind of fight it out, and the words were exchanged, and he made some incredible points, obviously. And then they had their little duel, and I thought that was pretty cool. But then freaking...
what were those points?
I don't even remember what the points were.
Okay, I was hoping you did. So the points were that your legacy is one of death and destruction. So very few people actually know who Ahsoka's master was. Everybody that was a part of the Order knew, of course, but it's like Hera didn't know that Anakin trained Ahsoka.
Nope.
And that was brought up in one of the episodes. So I think that's just interesting, and we see that kind of explained further out in part 5, but I guess for the moment we're still in part 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. And then they had their little duel, and then freaking...
Sabine's the little bitch, per usual.
Well, no.
She interferes.
Interferes because she gets there first before Shin.
Yeah, and, points her blaster at the ball.
At the star map. Yep.
The star map. But essentially, Ahsoka is pushed off a ledge and goes into the water.
Into the drink.
And Balin somehow...
And she did.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Show's over.
Yeah, show's over. Whoop-de-doo. That was a fun ride.
4 episodes early.
But then, yeah, she...
becomes the Sabine show, our worst nightmare.
Balin and Sabine have their little conversation, and like in this scene, I knew that she was going to turn the star map over to him. I knew it, but like just the way it went about made her look weak, personally. And I don't know, it just didn't really turn me on. It didn't really make me feel good about Sabine. I was more in favor of Ray, or not Ray.
That's Ray, name. But Balin.
Exactly. I had the same thought. Like, I was not surprised that Sabine switched teams.
He's Silver Foxed that something fierce,
dude. He made that scene, like the Balin, that whole thing. I was more excited about him. Like, oh man, he just picked up another Padawan or whatever they're called.
Come with me.
Yeah,
willingly.
I thought it was awesome,
and he was generous about it. And he even goes so far to say, it's like, I won't abandon you like your master did. I know.
The writing was so brilliant. And I think the audience was supposed to leave that episode with like, oh man, she's switched sides. But I don't know.
No, she's just a hostage.
No.
I thought Balin's a badass is how I left that. But
no, yeah, I agree. Her, just the next episode, episode 6 or whatever, I think she's going to like do something like, ooh.
Yeah. But long story short, Part 4 ends with the Eye of Sion activating its hyperdrive engines and warping away, causing some damage to some of Hera's squadron that had arrived to try to assist.
Yeah, I think there was like
5, I think, X-Wings.
The Ghost and like 4 or 5 other, I wanted to say TIE fighters then.
X-Wings.
X-Wings. Maybe I'm a freaking Sith.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm on the dark side. But anyway, yeah, like you said, Kenny, some of those ships are damaged, and then...
Oh, yeah. No, 2 of them are very dead. They don't show the ships exploding, but, like, one of them is, like... They turn one of the X-Wings into a Y-Wing. Like, a couple of the wings just disappear.
Doesn't mean they're dead. They're just...
I mean, have you ever seen any of the X-Wings actually survive if they get hit by anything?
No, they're typically dead.
They're typically dead.
I have
This is
faith.
the way to go.
I don't. But anyways, so we get
To episode 5 now.
to episode 5,
the
but
elephant
we
in the
see at the very, very end that Ahsoka ends up in the world between.
World Between Worlds.
Yeah,
Yes.
what the fuck?
So that's a Rebels callback, mostly. But it's a new interpretation of it.
Well, yeah, yes, it's a live action interpretation of World Between Worlds. And I thought it was freaking, like, visually just phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
it was so freaking cool. Like, if you, like, look at them step on the platform, if you will, or the bridge, or whatever you want to call it, you see it kind of, like, glows up. It kind of reminded me of, like, Avatar when they're, like, walking on, like, on the ground or something, and the ground,
Yeah.
like, lights up. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah,
So
you see that
was
they were
totally
actually
cool.
affecting the environment around them.
But
as they're
let's
moving.
take a
Anyways,
step back. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So the way we get to that part is Jason shows up and he is able to use his sensitivity to the Force, thanks to his father, Kanan, and actually hear lightsabers over the waves.
Yes, but who is Ahsoka fighting, Colin? I think that's probably even more important.
Our very own Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
So, anyway, so Jason tells. Here's one thing that I wanted to kind of bring up before we jump into that, Kenny. He's sitting there and he hears lightsabers over the waves, and then he tells his mom, Hera, to come over. And they just stand there both quietly trying to listen for it. Obviously, Jason can hear it, but do you all think that Hera could hear it, or is she just taking his word for it because she knows that he has some Force sensitivity?
They made the volume of the lightsabers go up, so I left with the impression that she could hear them too.
She could hear it too?
I am on the fence with that. I feel like she, just with her exposure to the Jedi, that she understands that there are things outside of her
Realm.
realm of, I guess, understanding with just like how she can like perceive the environment.
Yeah.
Which is why she's just like, okay, my son knows what's up.
Yeah. So
I might not know what's up, but my son does. So it's what's it to him.
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how they matched it with the lightsaber with like
With the waves crashing?
the waves crashing. I thought that
yeah,
was pretty
I agree.
neat.
That was pretty cool. It's just a question that I had, and I just wanted y'all's opinion if like Hera could actually hear the lightsabers over the waves, or if she just taking her son's word for it. And so, me personally, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that she could actually hear it too, just exactly like you
Yeah.
said, Kenny, because she has that exposure, and you know her
She knows
husband,
what to
not
look
husband.
for.
Did they get? They weren't married.
No.
No, they didn't get married. So her partner, let's call it that. It's 2023. You know, her exposure to that, and you know, Ezra and all that. Yeah, I can believe it. Sure.
Yeah. So like all of life has some connection to the Force. It's just that the Jedi and the Sith and the people that are able to use the Force to do the various different things that the Force can do generally just have more access to it. So it's not impossible that she could just like, you know, take the moment to like hone her senses to kind of like, you know, meditate on the situation and then hear it.
Sure.
But that's a different story in regards to how the Force works in canon. It's
All right, so let's go back to where we were. We are in the world between worlds.
yes.
She is sitting there. She's wondering where the fuck she is. She's actually been there before.
She's been there technically once, yes.
She's been there before, but since probably a lot of our audience, Jake, hasn't really seen any of the animated series, this is kind of like what is this place? So the world between worlds.
It's it's an interdimensional space that exists outside of time and the general galaxy.
Pretty much.
So how I can best interpret this to you, Jake, and to the audience at large, is that this space is able to kind of go to and from time and different worlds without it really applying to them.
Right.
So, like in Rebels, for example, Ezra uses this space to actually pull Ahsoka out of a fight where she's getting her ass beat by Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So Darth Vader survives that encounter, and in the original episode where we see Ahsoka and Vader fight, we don't see what happens technically to the end of the fight, but you can kind of assume, at least prior, that this is where Ahsoka dies, because we know that Vader has to live for him to encounter Luke and all of that in the later movies. But we also don't really have any more access to what Ahsoka does. Like at that point in time, Mandalore, Book of Boba Fett, all of that hasn't been released yet. So in theory, that was like where she died. But Ezra yanks her through a portal
Yep.
and is able to save her.
Yeah. And
Possibly defying fate, but
it is what it is.
it is what it is.
Yeah. All that was taken at a Jedi temple. Or, a Sith temple.
Yeah.
That fight was. Anyway, so we're on the bridge. Ahsoka's trying to figure out where she is, and she hears her master's voice, and she turns around, and hey, there's Anakin.
Yeah.
And they go ahead.
So there's a fun detail at the end of that episode, at the very end of...
Hold on, you're jumping ahead. Hold on.
No, I'm right at the beginning here.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
she, like, you hear Anakin say, like, hey there, Snips, something to that effect. She turns around and says, Anakin. But then, like, if you were to turn on, like, the closed captions, it says
Darth Vader.
Vader theme plays.
Yep. You hear it.
You hear it. You hear a couple of the horns from the original Darth Vader theme,
Yes.
and then the episode just cuts out.
Yep.
Fantastic detail. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're essentially brought into the point where Anakin and Ahsoka are kind of talking, and then they eventually have their little lightsaber duel, kind of. But they really jump into the live action, or, well, taken back in time, if you will, to the Clone Wars. And we
Yeah.
are brought to multiple battles that Ahsoka, younger version of Ahsoka, which you see.
2 of them, in fact.
2 of them, yes.
Yes.
So you see the Battle of Ryloth. That's the first battle that you see when she's brought into the Clone Wars.
Yes. One of her first missions.
Yes.
She states that herself. But this is where we see fan favorites, Rex.
Well, no, hold on.
Or is he in the second one?
That's
Battle?
the second one. So the first one is
ahead of
the
myself.
Siege of Ryloth. And so in the animated series, that's where we meet freedom fighter Cam Syndulla, who is Hera's father. And basically that, I think that was like a multiple episode kind of,
It took a while for them to resolve that one.
yeah. But anyway, he ends up dying, Cam Syndulla. So long story short, and the thing that I don't know if y'all noticed this, but the clone armor in that first battle that we are presented with is actually like the very beginning of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's accurate to how the original clone trooper armors are.
At the time. But
Yeah.
then as the battle progresses, you see that armor change.
Yeah.
And that goes into the second battle, the Siege of Mandalore.
Siege of
which
Mandalore.
Anakin was not present for because he was with Obi-Wan. And they were doing the battle over at Coruscant. And that's where the beginning of Revenge
Yeah.
of the Sith
At
starts.
that point, Anakin makes a point to say, it's like, oh, at this point, I had split away from you. Or I guess Ahsoka had said that. But
Yeah.
we see her fight. Now, throughout this entire process, we get the fun dialogue of, like, you either fight
Or
or
die.
you die.
Yep.
And just throughout this entire thing, it's Anakin wanting to complete Ahsoka's training. Now, at this point in the storyline, even in the world between worlds, Anakin is very dead. This is just a Force apparition of some form or another. It has to be.
Well, when you say Anakin is dead, like, no, Anakin isn't dead.
I guess it's the world in between, so even Star Wars space magic logic doesn't really apply, but
what I guess you're trying to say is you see those like flashes of like Vader, then Anakin, back to Vader, and then Anakin. So that's what's really going on. But in that scene where the Mandalore scene, you clearly see that when he's like walking away. But just before that, he's trying to teach her a lesson of like it's about
conviction,
life or death. And so I ended up looking up like what lesson was trying to be taught in that. And so I'm actually quoting a website about this. So the lesson about life and death, obviously, and Ahsoka reflects on her time in the Clone Wars, serving as a commander of the clone troopers while also learning from Anakin. Basically, she carries the guilt and sadness of the lives lost, including Anakin's, even more so after she walked away from the Jedi Order. So
classic survivor's guilt.
Right. So there's kind of a little bit of a lesson. That's what that whole thing was about.
Yeah.
And the training, I guess. And they had their little lightsaber duel. It was freaking cool as fuck. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that so freaking much.
I just love the idea that you can destroy a pathway in the world between just by cutting it with your lightsaber.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, this interdimensional space is still malleable, so it can be destroyed, and then you can plummet into the past.
But
anyways,
yeah. So let's talk about Captain Rex.
Yes,
Or
Rex, my
Commander
boy.
Rex, aka Tamura Morrison. Who eventually helps Ahsoka escape the Jedi Purge.
Yep.
This is after the Siege of Mandalore.
Yes. This is Rebels that we're talking about at this point, Jake.
So at this point, when they leave Mandalore, so Captain Rex, Ahsoka, and a bunch of the other clone troopers, they end up leaving Mandalore, and they have Darth Maul as a prisoner. And they're taking him back, I guess, to Coruscant at this point.
To the council for deliberation or the Senate,
so,
whichever. Yeah.
Basically, Maul later ends up escaping because
during the chaos of Order 66.
That's when basically that all happens. So Maul later escapes and helps Ahsoka using him as a distraction. And the Siege of Mandalore actually happens like the day before the Purge. Mm-hmm. And Anakin's duel with Obi-Wan, as you see in Revenge of the Sith. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to clarify that timeline. So all of that happens just before.
Yep. But we get just the duels between Ahsoka and Anakin are just fantastically done, because we see Anakin flip-flopping between Darth Vader and Anakin. Mm-hmm. But we also see that Ahsoka goes dark side for a brief moment, but is able to turn away. Yeah. Because as she says to Anakin, and his response to do you fight or die? She chooses to live, which is like the awkward middle ground of that conversation, because it's the non-choice of the two. But you see her get angry, and you see her eyes go Sith yellow.
Yep.
But then she turns back, and it's just good on you.
Yeah.
You're able to go to both sides. The Force is a two-way street. You can be either side. The pull exists on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of unique. You could see that on the path they were standing on. So they're saying, life or death, so to speak. So if you actually looked at the path, they visually showed one was kind of bending around, seemed like it would go on forever. But the one that she kind of gets backed into, where Anakin slices it in half and they fall down to the to the Clone Wars. That was a dead end. So I thought it was kind of unique.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a detail I didn't see.
I had
Look at you, Jake.
Paying
man.
attention.
I like none of us really picked up on that. Good for you, buddy.
yeah, man.
Collapse all around.
I had mixed reviews on the whole concept of world between worlds, if that's what it's called.
Go ahead.
That's fair. I'm interested. Go ahead.
I really enjoyed it. I think visually it was beautiful, and I love the flashbacks. Like, I thought it was awesome to see them, like, in the Clone Wars, and then the Battle of Mandalore, correct?
Yes, was the second one that we saw.
Like, the flashbacks were awesome, and I love the whole concept of, like, Anakin trying to finish the training and Ahsoka trying to get something out of it too, because obviously she's struggling with, I think you put it awesome, like, the survivor's guilt. So I like where they were trying to go with it. But this whole concept of the world between worlds and maybe like getting into like the time skipping shit.
The wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
It just seems so unnecessary. It's like, I don't know, it's fucking Star Wars. Like, you can't, like the old
You
Star
gotta
Wars.
take it with a grain of salt, right?
I know, but the old Star Wars that have like a ghost of Yoda show up, and it's like, come on, it just seems a little.
Actually, Yoda does go in between the world between worlds.
I don't know. So, like, I'm not completely convinced on this world between worlds. I loved watching it. Like I said, I loved seeing the flashbacks and, like, the final training. You know, seeing Ahsoka get trained by Anakin, and Anakin's flipping back and forth with Darth Vader. It was fun to watch. But I'm a little nervous that this world between worlds is going to get a little out of control.
I think that's going to be the only time that we see it.
I hope so.
Well, because it's already served its purpose, just narratively. But so Ezra's able to get there alive and in person. Ahsoka's more or less just kind of there, like, mentally, because we later find out that after she, like, you know, completes her, like, mental training, so to speak, that she's just floating in the ocean. She's still alive. Now, there's plenty of, I guess, in-lore reasons on why they're still alive, because the Jedi don't necessarily need to know how to breathe, because there's different force powers that will allow them to breathe, even in poisonous gas areas. But I digress. She's still alive, and due to Jason's advice, he gets Hera to fly the ship low, and they eventually find her.
Yep. Now, it was, if I recall correctly, this actually was Dave Filoni's plan all along, because years ago, but trading cards were made, and there's one particular trading card of the character Ahsoka, like, going down in water. I think it's just like a headshot, if you will.
Sure.
But, like, clearly
Like staring up to the surface kind
like
of thing?
looking up, exactly, going in water. So I think that was his plan all along, to have that interaction between those two characters in the world between worlds.
If that is true, that is some serious big brain shit.
Exactly. That's exactly my fucking point, is that Dave Filoni, he knows his shit. He is as much a nerd as
the rest of us.
Jake. Yeah, like, for sure. He knows what the fuck he's doing. And that is why this show supports that 100%.
But yes. So, remarkably, she's able to survive being underwater for an unknown amount of time, and is only unconscious for a day on the Ghost after she gets rescued. Mm-hmm. So, quick turnaround.
She's reborn, man.
She basically comes to, and then they end up somehow going outside. I don't remember how they get to this point, but they use the space whales. Purrgil.
Yeah. Well, she realizes at that point that the star map has been destroyed, and they have no way to actually use this. Well, I thought they were going to make a fun callback to, like, oh, like, she burned her hand on the thing in the fight, and they were going to somehow use that, but that was just nothing.
Okay, pause. I want to talk about that real quick. She burns her hand on that, and it was sitting there, like, on the little thing that keeps it
on its like weird
the altar,
magic
whatever the fuck you want to call it.
pedestal.
Yeah. So she burns her hand trying to grab it, but then later we see Sabine grab onto it, but her hands weren't burnt. So like
It wasn't recently activated, I think, is the logic, because Ahsoka grabbed it while it was still on.
I guess that's that. Okay, that's fair.
I mean, I guess that's just some like dumb appliance knowledge. Like, you know, if you try to grab the toaster while it's still cooking a thing, it's going to be fucking hot.
But the cool thing about it was the fact that
Toasters and Star Wars.
Balin takes his lightsaber and destroys it, and you just see him hold it vertically and just cuts it right in half. Yeah. I thought that was actually a really cool scene.
Yeah, it's a cool scene because on top
Balin's
of
a badass.
because Balin has a badass line after he does it, but it's also one of the few times where I think you actually see the lightsaber go shorter than its like standard length. Like he's able to control its length because he just like real quick, like only like a couple feet, and like a standard lightsaber is like, you know, a general sword, which is like, you know, 5 feet or so odd in length, and like, you know, he makes it like 2 feet, and he just holds the thing over it, cuts it in half after a couple seconds. Surprisingly enough, that takes a very long time to cut. But he says the badass line is like, now no one will be able to follow us. Under normal circumstances, yes. But they don't know about the Purgo, the fun space whales. I like the fact that they actually, like, Hera goes out and calls them whales.
Yeah.
Like, for the longest time, I was just calling them space whales because, you know, that's what I can basically compare them to, is that there's some, like, mashup of, like, a whale and, like, a cuttlefish, because it's a squid that can, like, light up and turn colors and all
It's
of that.
just one of those things. You know, the audience is just going to call them space whales.
Well, yeah.
So just fucking lean into it.
Just lean into it. And they do. So Ahsoka gets the big brain idea to, you know, it's like, okay, well, the whales know where they're going. Let's follow the whales. But how do we get the whales to show us where they're going?
I'm going to step outside my ship and just use the Force, I guess, and talk.
Connect with the whale on a Force spiritual level.
I mean, that's kind of what Ezra did in the animated series a little bit.
Didn't they have like a weird horn thing, though, too, on top of that?
A horn thing.
Yeah, because it wasn't there like a special way that they could call the Purgo as well outside of the Force? I might be mistaken.
I don't remember that shit. I think you're making that up.
I don't think I am. Anyways, tell us down below in the comments if I'm right or if Colin is right.
I really liked it. I think it was a perfect arc for Ahsoka because she had this, you know, near-death experience where she got to finalize her training, and it really brought her back into like the Jedi world. So I took it more as like she was finally trained and she understood more. Where you know, it's kind of like the darkness versus the light. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of the Jedis, including Skywalker, always says like, well, it's all connected. Yeah, so I took it as like, well, she's, you know, at this point she can connect to anything, or, you know, if it's a tree or a space whale or whatever. And I just really love seeing it. So I thought it was really good writing. The whole concept of we don't have the map anymore, but I know a creature that's been around for, you know, since the start of time. Let's just see if they'll help us. It's like, I think she even kind of says it to the droid, whatever his name, Huyang, yeah. Huyang is like, do you have a plan? And she's like, no. I'm just following the space whales.
Well, you see, that was a very like Anakin thing too. It's just like, I don't need a plan. We'll just let it solve itself.
Let it play out.
Yeah, I think that's part of like the Jedi Force, though, right? It's like you're gonna have to kind of trust the Force.
Just kind of have faith in it. Yeah. Like, you know, it's the whole like, you know, the bombing run on the Death Star. It's like, you know, just believe in the Force and you'll be able to do the thing.
The Force is with me.
But
when with the Force is with
space whales are just awesome, right?
Right.
I think they're pretty freaking dope.
And when they were going into like what do you call it?
Hyperspace?
Hyperspeed.
Yeah.
Hyperspace.
Activating their own personal biological hyperdrive.
Hey, how badass that is, man. That's awesome.
Well, it's fun because it has like the same visual effects where you just see like the white lines of like the stars, or the white lights of the stars, and then all of those get blurred into a line as they're going faster than light.
I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like I said, she steps out on the ship, talks to one of the whales, one of the bigger whales,
The biggest
the
whale.
biggest of all of them.
Of
There's
the pod.
several. Yeah, and right when that's going on, I guess the rebel fleet shows up and like, hey,
Like, what the hell are you all doing out here?
Space
You do
whales,
not
come
have your
through.
orders to be out here. You're wasting so much goddamn
Yeah,
money being
I love
here.
that too. What's the name of the captain? So he's
cap-
like trying to delay, so to speak. She's like, "Oh, we're gonna
Captain
remove your rank."
Carson,
Yeah.
my man.
He's like, "Fine, I'll tell you the truth. It involves space whales."
and then you just see him start coming out of the planet. And I guess at this point, Ahsoka's in the mouth of
And
the
in
whale.
the mouth of the big whale, and just
And
says
you
like,
just-
"Sorry, Hera, you can't follow us." It's just like, She jokingly says like, "Jason's too young to travel between galaxies."
I'd be pissed if I was Jason. I'm like, I want to go on this
But-
space well.
The crazy thing is that all of this is technically happening within the Milky Way, and they're going outside of the Milky Way to
Yeah.
wherever Ezra and Thrawn are.
A different galaxy. Yeah.
To a different galaxy.
Entirely.
Because, like, you know, in a galaxy far, far away or whatever, they're going to a galaxy even further away.
Yeah. Too fun, man. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and then they start coming away from the planet, and that's when the rebel fleet shows up and like, hey, Captain Carson's like, yeah, I would try to get out of the way, and you see the little the cruisers, they try and dodge the whales essentially, and I think they like touch or something, but other than
No,
that,
it's like the whales are, you know, I'm going to say dexterous enough to, like, you know, not run into a thing. But when you're larger than
but
a
if you're
cruiser,
larger than a cruiser, exactly. If you bump into something and something gets destroyed, you probably don't give a fuck since you're a giant ass whale.
well, yeah. Also, we see it in the last episode of Rebels that they actively run into Star Destroyers from the Sith,
Yeah.
and they, like, the whales come out better in those collisions. Like they like just ran those things and
But they
ripped
were
them
like
apart.
they were kind of like commanded, air quotes, to do that. Where in this case, they're just like, "Hey, let's just go into hyperspace," and you're not really, air quotes, commanded to destroy anything. along the
Sure.
way. So they go into hyperspace with Ahsoka and Huang Li. I don't, whatever. Dude, I really hate that robot's name. Anyway, they go into
Huang.
hyperspace in the whale's mouth.
And that's where our story ends so far.
So far,
Love it. Loving it so far.
we have what?
More space whales.
Three
please.
more episodes
Three more
to go?
episodes.
More space whales,
And-
please.
Well, we have to at least get more.
Oh, well, no, we're getting more Pergil for sure.
We have to because, you know, they're still in the whale. At least in the beginning of the next episode, they have to be there.
This is kind of like a Jonah.
Jonah and the whale thing.
That's, I mean, we thought that too.
Yeah. But also, they need a way to get back.
Space
I mean, they're going
space
to
whales.
use. They're
Like, they have to
clearly
get back
going to.
somehow.
They
So
got the
either they're
map.
going to
They're
have
going to
to
use the eye. They have to.
Yeah,
either
there's
use
a
the
map.
eye or they just take a ride back with the whale.
I'm not worried about that. Obviously, they need to look back.
Speaking of the eye, I think I saw something. I don't know. Maybe this actually ends up being the case, but I actually saw a picture of the eye, but with the Death Star in the center.
I thought you were going to say Eye of Sauron
But-
again. Make that corny
No,
joke.
we're not doing Lord of the Rings right now. No. So I wonder, like, correct me if I'm wrong. Can the Death Star go into hyperspace,
Sure, why not?
or is it just like a really long dick year to get from point A to point B?
The problem is that we never really see it
Do that.
do it because, you know, it is the size of a moon, and most of its energy reserves are dedicated to its death lasers.
Yeah.
So
That's a good question. If you know the answer, feel free to leave a comment.
that's actually outside of my realm of knowledge because I know.
But it would make
Death
sense
Star couldn't,
if the-
Star
if the
Killer
eye-
couldn't, but
If the eye of Sauron, if the eye ended up actually like going on the outside of the perimeter of the Death Star. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Google that.
I also like how the only reason why Hera and her squadron are able to survive the Eye of Sion going into hyperspace, like directly in their path, is because the thing is a ring, so it just flies completely around them. But just the space turbulence, I guess, is enough to really just make their day worse.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, I think that concludes closing thoughts about the series so far. Jake, you first.
Love it. More space whales.
More space whales. Beyond the space whales, though, what do you want to see?
What are your predictions?
I don't really know. I mean, obviously, I think they're going to find Ezra Bridger and Thrawn.
Do you think they're going to find Ezra?
Yeah, I do.
I know that we're going to find Thrawn because obviously
We've seen him in a trailer, but I wonder if that is
I really don't know.
a red herring or not. I would love it to be a red herring.
See, no, that's they do that shit in Marvel with their trailers, and that's why they got in trouble for that, is putting like scenes into the trailer that actually aren't in the movie, and so they actually got in trouble for that. So if they're doing that with this series,
Oh, is that like a weird legal thing, or?
I think that was like a legal thing. They can't do that shit anymore.
Yeah, but even then,
That's kind of like air quotes false advertising. I don't know what the I don't know what the legal.
No, false advertising would be the thing, but you're not really advertising it necessarily.
You can't show Thrawn in a trailer and him actually not be in the show.
Fair enough.
I don't know what to expect, though. I anticipate they'll find Thrawn and they'll find Ezra Bridger. But beyond that, I really have no idea where this is going. Different galaxy, so...
Yes.
Galaxy far, far away.
Even further away.
Even further away.
So my thing is, yes, they're gonna find Thrawn. He is going to, I don't know, he's gonna do something. He's gonna fuck some shit up, and
Yeah.
I actually can't wait for. I forget the actor's name, but he plays him. He voices him in the animated series. Super cool. Super excited to see him. But I don't know what's gonna happen when he shows up.
So, if you want my final thought and my prediction and answer to that is, I think we're going to see the final rematch between Ahsoka and Balin while Thrawn is watching.
Thrawn is watching.
Yes, in the background.
Elaborate. Expand.
Well, because he has to be alive, because if you say that they can't lie because they've shown him in a trailer, he has to be alive.
Sure.
So,
But why is he watching Balin and Ahsoka?
Because they're fighting each other. And what is Thrawn going to do when two lightsabers are being flung around?
So he's just standing there watching? Is he going to be taking on Ezra at this point? Is Ezra going to show up? So
maybe.
that's kind of my mixed feeling. If Ezra ends up dying, I would be upset about it. But at the same time, I would enjoy to see a live action Ezra Bridger.
Oh, chances are both Thrawn and Ezra are going to be in a single episode, and they're both going to die in that same episode. I could
Oh,
almost
so you think this is a one and done kind of like
for both of them, yeah.
interesting?
Interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
That's my big brain prediction. We'll see if that happens in the next 3 episodes. We got a lot to look forward to, gentlemen.
Yeah, we do. I'm super excited.
Colin, where can the people find us if they want more of our lovely content?
Oh, guys, please give us a follow. Like our content. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you want more content on the daily, feel free to like our shorts on YouTube and as well as Instagram Reels. We are providing all kinds of fun content for you to watch. And not necessarily Star Wars. We do all things Marvel, all things Lord of the Rings, Ninja Turtles even.
Yeah, I need to convince these guys to try to do the most popular thing on Netflix right now. I currently have about 47 of the volumes behind you.
Yes, you do.
Yes, One Piece, the newest hotness. Somewhat of a subject matter expert in that regards, because I have about 30 more of those out in my living room that I need to put on my shelf. Hell yes, I am. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you all next time.
See you, buddy.
See you, everybody.